Let's get into some poetry now, where the 27th Poetry Africa International Festival is presented by the University of Cape Town's KwaZulu-Natal's, Centre for Creative Arts. The festival began with the second annual Keorapetse Kgositsile Memorial Lecture at the University of Johannesburg. This was in honor of the erstwhile poet, laureate and former Minister of Arts and Culture who died in 2018. Now, poets, readers and lovers of the spoken word will gather in different parts of the country to participate in the event. Joining us now to discuss this further is Ismail, Mahomed, head of the Centre for Creative Arts at UKZN. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the Weekend Report on Newzroom Afrika. For more than 2 decades, we know that this festival has featured in different parts of the world. I understand that you're expanding it now to Bloemfontein. What can we expect?
Good morning to you and your viewers. Just a quick correction. Keorapetse was an advisor to various ministers, an incredibly well-known poet and public intellectual. The Centre for Creative Arts has been hosting the festival, incredibly successful in Durban for 27 years. Last year we moved to Johannesburg and we found there was a huge appetite in the city of Joburg for the Poetry Africa Festival. Mpho, who is the artistic director appointed now at Backhouse, is an alumni of the Poetry Africa Festival. She cut her teeth at the festival in her early years, and when she was appointed, we thought this was a wonderful opportunity to link up with one of our alumni from the Poetry Africa Festival and to see how we could expand the festival to Bloemfontein. We do believe that poetry is one of the fastest growing movements in South Africa. It's one of the ways in which young people are using their voices to speak to so many issues around social justice. And you know, as the world becomes so much more conscious about matters of social justice, the arts becomes an incredibly dynamic way in which to be able to express it. And poetry is one of those most accessible forms that speaks to all audiences. It is emotive, it is descriptive, it is engaging, it is thought-provoking, it is critical, it allows you to reflect. And this is why we see our festival finding the kind of legs into other cities and invitations even to other parts of the globe.
It's interesting you say that it's one of the fastest growing movements in South Africa, because some may be of the view that poetry is perhaps a dying art form, and that it's no longer relevant, and people are no longer reciting poems off by heart and being proud of it. Perhaps what would you say to critics who may be of that view?
I think, the way poetry has been taught in schools for so many years has been a form of poetry that's been adopted from the West, where it's written in this very classical form. It has a particular kind of structure, and that's the kind of poetry that people have been exposed to at school. But as soon as they're exposed to spoken word poetry, and many thanks to social media, which has provided a platform for more and more people to be exposed to spoken word poetry, we find this to become an incredibly growing movement, with more young people wanting to engage in poetry, write their own poetry, but also perform their poetry. The fact that for the open mic session, as soon as we open registration for the open mic, within a day or two, we fully subscribed. And I think that is an indication that more and more young people want to engage with the spoken word. Yes, the traditional Western form of poetry may be a dying art form, but spoken word poetry, which has been rooted in African culture and African tradition, particularly with the Mbongi as the praise poet or as the community poet, is a art form that has been carried through centuries, and it continues to find itself evolving to our newer kind of societies. But the essence of the Mbongi or the praise poet or the spoken word poet, to be the person who carries the word to his society and begins to engage with them around the happenings of the day, is an age-old tradition, and it will never die. It only grows stronger.
And what are some of the expectations when it comes to exploring boundaries between genres? I mean, I understand that's also going to be showcasing, with the young poets marrying English and vernacular to deliver these hard-hitting pieces.
Yes, I think, when the national lockdown was announced and we could not host live festivals, I think that particular period of 2.5 years gave us an incredible time to begin to rethink the way we present ourselves on the online space. And that challenged poets and other artists to consider ways of collaborating. And we have had some wonderful collaborations with poets and contemporary dancers, poets and jazz musicians, poets and graphic designers. And what we're seeing at this particular year's festival is a particular platform that we've created for artists who are working cross-genre. And I think it's a growing art form, not just because it's a fascinatingly exciting art form, but it's also a much more sustainable art form for poets to be able to collaborate with other with artists working in other genres. And it's a wonderful way to grow audiences for both genres or multiple genres through the process of collaboration.
And in terms of logistics, how is this going to all work out, the different stages across the different locations? How have you planned that?
Well, in Johannesburg, we've used just one stage at the UJ Theatre, and we've had 3 performances over 3 different nights. And it was wonderful to see that even the Keorapetse Kgositsile Memorial Lecture was fully subscribed, was fully booked. Last night was almost fully sold out as well, and tonight is completely sold out. There's not a single ticket available in what is more than a 400-seater venue at the UJ Theatre. In Durban, we're using 2 stages. We're using the Harvard College Theatre, and then we're using the Jazz Centre. But we also have a daily online program for people across the globe, and particularly across the continent, to be able to see Poetry Africa if they cannot see it at the 2 venues that we have in Durban.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about Professor Kgositsile, Brawili, as he was fictionally known, and the contribution from his side.
Well, Brawili was a writer, an author, a poet, a real public intellectual. But he had this incredible ability that although he was advisor to various arts ministers in this country and was in exile and, came back post, when South Africa became a democracy, when the ANC was unbanned, he had this immediate connection with young artists. And they saw him as an incredible role model, a caring person. And that relationship was one that was incredibly remarkable, because whenever he was invited to be performed, to perform across the globe, he always invited some of the young artists to perform with him. And particularly amongst those that performed with him was Lebo Mashile, one of South Africa's most dynamic women poets, and Philippa de Villiers, who is drawn from a mixed heritage to be able to talk around matters of race, about identity. And Brawili created that opportunity for young audiences and also young poets to have this intergenerational conversation. And I think that made him incredibly special. Apart from the fact that he was a remarkable public intellectual, a strong political activist, but a deeply, deeply compassionate and humble man.
And why should we read his poetry? I mean, what can we learn as we look to the future and we, try and be innovative about the poetry art form?
Well, I think one of the most important things about that kind of poetry of his, and even those who emulate his work, is that they offer an incredible amount of hope. They offer vision. And, in a world that is challenged with so much problems and so much that brings us down, the ability to hold onto hope, the ability to hold onto a vision, the ability not to lose your humanness is incredibly important. And I think that filters through his poetry. It also filters through the poetry of the people who paid tribute to him on 2 nights ago when we had the memorial lecture.
And in terms of access, how do people get access to these events?
Well, the online events are all free. And they start off tomorrow. Anyone who wants to join the Poetry Africa online program can go onto our website, which is the UKZN CCA/Poetry Africa. Even if you just search Poetry Africa 2023, it will take you to our program. But if you are in Durban, you can get tickets at the Harvard College Theatre or the Jazz Centre on the nights of the performances, or you could also go onto web tickets and be able to book your tickets online. But we're also wanting, whilst Poetry Africa does sell tickets, because we draw the box office to be able to supplement and complement the payments that we make to our artists, we are committed to keep our doors open to anyone who wants to access the festival.
Yeah.
So we do give a number of complimentary tickets to students, to people living in communities that have been historically marginalized. It's simply a case of come to the door, we'll find you a seat, we won't turn you away. We may not be able to find you a seat for the 6 o'clock show because it's completely sold out, but we'll accommodate you for the 8 o'clock show.
Very warm invite there. Thank you so much for your time. Of course, speaking there to the Centre for Creative Arts UKZN, Ismail Mahomed, speaking about the point of view, the 27th Poetry Africa International Festival returning to South Africa.